Welcome to a very special look at the winter update of Halo Infinite, where we'll be deep diving into Forge, campaign co-op, the new maps, and new PvP mode, One Flag, with developers 343 at our side. I'm Stella Chung, and I'll let my co-hosts from 343 introduce themselves. Hey guys!
Hey, how's it going?
Stella.
How are y'all today?
Pretty good. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Michael Shore. I'm the Forge lead designer here at 343.
And I am Sean Barron, and I run the live service for Halo Infinite.
Awesome, and I know y'all have been super busy, but before we dive in, a real quick shout out to our sponsor, and our sponsor would like to tell you that Halo and Trolli, the sour gummy brand known for shining its neon light into the gaming world, teamed up to give fans nationwide collectible Trolli X Halo packs for a limited time. Gamers and sour gummy fans who purchase these limited edition packs will receive a code for Halo Infinite in-game content of double XP boosts and 3 challenge swaps. Fans can also enter for a chance to win one of 5 achievement-worthy bundles consisting of a custom Trolli Love Sack, Corsair and Elgato PC gear, an Xbox Series S console, a custom all-new worm-themed Trolli Xbox controller, and, of course, delicious Trolli Halo Infinite collectible packs that make for a new stream-ready setup for everything from Team Slayer to Oddball. So to start, we're really interested in what Forge is going to do for the game. What has been the most impressive creation you've seen so far?
I saw one, I think it was last week or the week before, where someone created an arcade cabinet that was like a 2D version of Halo, right? Playing like wild. An old arcade game. Yeah, it was totally wild. And like, we're sitting there going, how did he do this?
Yeah.
And so thankfully he did a video. And we could see how he did the perspective and we could see the scripting. But a lot of people were really stumped. I had some people come to me going, this is fake. And I was like, no, I think it's real. But to me, that's as of yet, in terms of like some crazy experience that's sort of off the beaten path, that's been the craziest thing I've seen so far.
Yeah, so do you think that
film noir, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say there's that like film noir one where it was like a sort of like a investigator's office.
Oh yeah,
people like movie setting almost.
Yeah, that was really cool. The realistic setting experiences that people have been creating. Yeah, that's been really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask. So if that guy hadn't shown how he did everything, do you think you would have been able to figure out how it worked, or do you think you really needed to see the background information on how he did it?
I think we would have figured out the scripting end. I don't think we would have guessed the perspective trick that they used to create that experience. I think that was the aha moment for me, where I was like, oh, now I see what's going on.
Wow, that's actually really impressive that they were able to stump you.
Well, it looked like he had scaled some of our pieces, and in our game, if you scale a piece, it's nothing that you can reference with a script. And so like that's what fooled a lot of people, is that people were going, well, based on this perspective, he's scaled these pieces, right? And you can't script those pieces. And the way he did it was the perspective trick I was talking about. So that was what tripped up everybody.
Okay, awesome. And how have you improved Forge since the last version was created?
So the big improvements for this version are scaling, object scaling, like I talked about before. That's a huge add to the game, because now instead of having hundreds or even thousands of object variants of different sizes, you can just give the players a cube and go make it whatever size you want. You want it big, you want it small, you can scale it to your liking. So that's been a game changer. The scripting that was in Halo 5 was pretty powerful, but it was a little obtuse. And so we've added a visual scripting component called Node Graph, where you can go and place nodes in a space and just script your experiences using these visual nodes. And so to me, that's another big improvement that we've worked on. And then we've also added, the budget. The budget right now is about 7,000. In Halo 5, it was 1,600 objects. And we've massively increased the budget. That's been a big deal. And then the way objects take materials now is a big deal. There's regions on each object where you can change the materials, change the trim or the body or the detail materials to make these objects look like you want. That's been another improvement. And then, oh gosh, there's one more on my brain that's not coming out of my mouth. Those are the big. I'd say those are the big three in terms of improvements over 5.
Because
Yeah.
we have better nav mesh support.
Oh yeah, what am I thinking? Yeah, so yeah, thank you.
It's a lot of stuff. It's
A lot of stuff. So and then bot support, right? So
Yeah.
Spartan bots, you can put in custom games right now. If you're making a Forge experience, you can add nav mesh data so the Spartan bots know what to do in your map, and so that's a big add. Just for testing your map, Spartan bots are really useful because you don't have to find 7 other people that want to play your map. Plus, in creating new experiences, I know that players are going to like use the Spartan bots in ways that we haven't even thought of yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see that. And as we're talking about Halo Forge builders, they've been able to make some really incredible things. So I'm curious if you took any inspirations for the tool set now from other creation tools like Dreams or even Roblox.
I mean, any tool creation was something that we knew about. I don't know if there's like direct sort of like, oh, we're gonna use this, but like obviously we looked at all that stuff and look at different feature sets. You know, we wanted to make sure that Forge was as full featured as any other content creation set, and so making sure that the scripting store was really good, making sure that players could scale objects, like all those things that I just talked about. Those were sort of the minimum bar for making Forge what it is, to give players the power to make the stuff that they want to make. Um, there's a quote, I keep using this, but I love it. Tom French, when I first started, he's like, you know, if you give players a toy, they're going to make toys. But if you give them a tool set, they're going to make experiences, right? And that really stuck with me. And that's kind of been our guiding light for those kind of things, is like really making sure that we give the players as much power as we can so they can just go crazy.
And you guys have worked super hard with the Forge runners to get a lot of their feedback, right? Like that's been amazing to see.
Yeah, the Forge Runner program. So the Forge Council is a group of community forgers that we've been flighting various builds of Forge to and getting their feedback. They've been building content. They've been helping us sort of improve the workflow of Forge, getting feedback on features or even bugs, etc. They've been super useful in bringing Forge to the level that it is right now.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that for over 2 years now.
It's been a while.
Basically, the start of the pandemic is when that started.
Yeah, that's impressive that you have a council. That sounds so official and kind of scary almost.
Well, they all wear robes, and there's rules of meetings.
They chant before we admit.
I see. No, that makes total sense. Yeah. So what would you say was the hardest thing about evolving Forge to the modern tools that you are now talking about?
I would say, first off, just because we added so many features, the UX of adding those features onto a controller was a big challenge, and we solved that by adding radial menus in the game that are great for accessing those various actions or tools, and they're extensible. So when we add more tools later on, we'll be able to do that. And then just technically, like, we inherited a lot of what's in Forge, what will be in Forge tomorrow, from our internal tools. And those are just technically very complex things. We inherited the lighting system from our internal tools. We inherited a really robust audio system, and the nav mesh system that I talked about previously. Like, we inherited all that from the internal tools. And so, like, not only bringing them in was a technical hurdle, but also making them something that we could put in front of players that was maybe more intuitive or just easier to use than internal tools. That was a big challenge as well.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that sounds like a lot of stuff that you are bringing over that is official. So I'm curious, with all these tools that were internal being brought to Forge, would you ever make a game mode that was created in Forge an official supported mode?
Absolutely.
For sure. Yes, 100% that is the plan.
Awesome. Okay, so I know Fortnite does this thing where they highlight different maps that are made by the community every so often. Is that something that we might see on the Halo menus for Forge?
Yes, very much so. So in the Halo menu, there in the community tab, there's a section called Recommended. That is entirely curated by 343, and the goal there is to fill that with entirely community created content.
Yep. and we're going to want to bring it into, I don't know if we've covered this anywhere else, but like we want to bring great things that come out of the community into our matchmaking systems, like, right? So into our ranked play, into our social play, very likely start social, and then if things, get a lot of good momentum on them from a competitive perspective, we'll move them in there too. But yeah, so we did that in Halo 5 as well. We had many maps that were actually created by our community that were pretty fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay, that's really good to hear.
I kind of look at recommended as sort of the stepping stone for experiences that might end up in a playlist, right? Like, oh, this is cool, this is interesting. Let's take a look at it, make sure that it's right for everyone, and put it in recommended and see what people think, right? And then if that stuff gains steam or is just super fun, right? Obviously, we're going to bring it to the next level and add to playlists, like Sean said.
Yeah, so what would be the steps? I know this is, it's not even out yet, but what would be the steps in bringing it up a level? Say you do want to bring a game mode into competitive. What would be the next steps? Would you work with the creator to help them develop this further, or would you take this over?
No, we would work with the creator. We're trying to actually internally, we're trying to establish those guidelines right now, so we can give a document for the community to sort of base their stuff on. But yeah, at a high level, obviously we got to have the content has to be created, right? And then we have to find it and go, man, this is really cool. And then once we're ready for or for adding it into playlists, we need to work with that creator to just make sure the map is performant. Is the frame rate high? Does it work with all the game modes that it's supposed to? And there'll be a dialogue with the content creators and going, hey, we want to do this. These are the things that we need out of this map. If you hit these check marks, we can throw it in a playlist. But yeah, like you said, I expect that to be a dialogue with several or many creators, right?
Yeah. So speaking of new things, let's go back to some older things. What's a new Forge feature you're proud to see come back from previous iterations of Forge?
Let's see. From previous Forge, what's a feature that is...
I guess you're happy to see come back.
Well, I like the fact that we're still using canvases as the base, right? We have these amazingly gorgeous canvases that our team's created. And that I'm glad that system of how players build upon a canvas to make an experience is still there. I think it's really solid. Obviously, canvases are something that we'll add to in the future. So we're going to start with 6, but we'll evolve from there, and we'll be adding more down the line. So I'm glad that's still in place. Gosh, the rest of the features that came over from Halo 5 feel sort of anticlimactic compared to Infinite. That's a really good question.
Okay, while you're thinking about that, so for someone who's new to Forge, like I'm completely new to Forge. I had a friend who worked on it or who played in previous versions, and I was like, I don't know what you're doing. How easy is it going to be for someone who's completely new to Forge to come in and kind of mess around with things?
I think if you're starting from scratch, obviously the skill floor there is a little higher. But if you take either a community main map or one of our 2 Forge maps and start with that as a base, obviously those are going to be fully functioning experiences. So, you might, for instance, want to open up Argyle, one of the maps that launches tomorrow, and be like, you know what, I want to move where the flags spawn. I want to change the CTF experience, right? That would be a very good way to dip your toes in. Or you might want to say, I'm going to start off when someone captures the flag, I want to script some silly event where all the weapons change or something like that. Like, to me, those are very good sort of first experiences to try and create in Forge, and then go from there, before you get into a totally blank canvas and start from scratch and make the whole thing, which is...
It's pretty daunting.
It's daunting. It's challenging. It can be really complex depending on what you want to make. So I'd say start with one of the existing maps and go from there.
There's a lot of, we just put out some basics, right? Some sort of videos, tutorials.
Forge fundamentals.
Forge fundamentals, that's right. And then there are a lot of communities out there that you can follow with people making stuff in Forge and just asking them questions. Like the Halo community is actually pretty welcoming, especially when you're really interested in making stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good
that's
crew out
absolutely
there.
true. Yeah, I'm excited. Honestly, I just want to make a mode where if you kill one of the chickens on the map, they all swarm you, kind of like in Legend of Zelda. Like, I think that would be really fun.
The chicken mob.
Yes, I want to do that. Well, if you're just tuning in, we are sitting down with 343 talking Halo Infinite, brought to you by Trolli. Now, we are diving into the 2 new PvP maps that were created in Forge and Covert when Flag. So, starting with Argyle, what are your favorite elements of this map?
I think the architecture is just stunning, right? It evokes a little bit of the Forerunner theme, but obviously it's UNSC. I just like those angles. It also reminds me a little bit of old school games. You know, I was a big fan of Quake 3, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of like a classic Quake 3 vibe. Um,
I like that it's so some people have called out in the studio that it reminds them visually of an old map called Epitaph, which I know not everybody loves. But what I love about it is that it does throw you back there with the different levels of verticality. So it's like low, medium, high. So you just saw someone coming up around the back. Um, and I love that type of combat in Infinite in particular, but I also like the fact that it's more controlled than Epitaph, for example.
Okay, so
I
when
like that it's a symmetrical map.
yes, I honestly really like symmetry in Halo maps, but talking about the maps and the layout of this, what would you say are the best weapons to use on this map?
well, obviously the sniper is, you know, there's a lot of sniper duels that go on because they both spawn on opposite sides of the map. You've
Oh
got
no.
that center area you can look down. Um, I've been a fan of the plasma grenades and the heat wave in this map. There's a lot of
Oh, especially in
surfaces.
the bottom area.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
just some like the angles are pretty easy to sort of understand where things are going, right? And so you catch a lot of people unaware. Um, battle rifle also works pretty
That
good
is what I was. I
because
mean, like
yeah,
battle rifle is pretty much my default. I love
yeah,
it. Commandos is with our a bit of our sandbox tuning is probably gonna be a little bit easier to play with here. Um, I can't remember. So we have the two sniper rifles are in this one,
mhm,
right? We didn't put the rockets.
no,
Okay.
no.
We play with a bunch of different versions of the map with
Hmm.
different placement of different weapons, and sometimes we change what we ship. So
If you wanted rockets, you could
in
edit the
Forge,
map in
Yeah,
yes,
Forge
true.
and change the
yeah, because
spawns to be
in
rockets.
Epitaph, I mean, because in Epitaph, in that we have a bit of a floating area in the middle. There were rockets on that originally. Um, I would call it.
I also really like the grapple shot play in
Yes,
this. It's if you are a skilled grapple shot player, you can move around this map with incredible ease.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my question. I was going to ask if grapple shot was on this map.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how polished this map looks. It looks so clean. But I do want to ask, what are your favorite elements about detachment?
Attachment. I love the island excuse me, island versus main gameplay space play. I love the discussion, the gameplay discussion
Hmm.
that players have with those two spaces. I like how, you know, detachment is our first arena map with a teleporter in it.
Hmm.
So I like how that contributes to the meta of the game. In fact, the teleporter is there's two kinetic launchers that take you to the island, but there's also a teleporter that'll take you and drop you down at
Is that the
in
technical term?
kinetic
Not
launcher.
man cannon?
No, we changed it.
Okay,
It's their kinetic launchers.
kinetic
No longer
launchers.
man cannons.
Okay,
You heard it here first.
okay.
Kinetic launchers.
That's my so like when I right now, if you're looking over there, that's my favorite area. Like this reminds me
Oh yeah,
of
we were just talking about
yeah,
this.
if right around there, but towards the back of the map, there's this area where it's almost like there was a map in Halo players will be familiar with Guardian, where you are using the kinetic launchers.
Thank you.
And yeah, the kinetic launchers, and you can. It's a really creates a really fun dynamic. But here, you're actually able to go back a little further than you would be on that map, and so you can
Mm,
actually control space a little bit more. And that's a lot of fun for me because I'm not a very good player, and so
same.
if I can hold my BR and stay back a little bit, it helps me because everybody else will usually kill me. I like hiding.
I also really enjoy this layout just in general. It feels like it's really easy to learn, but hard to
Mhm.
master,
Yeah,
right? And that's a
that's
hard
what's
thing to do as a
that's
level designer.
that's why I personally I love symmetrical maps because of that. Right?
Yeah, this looks really
This is
fun.
the
Like there are
area
a
I
lot
like.
of angles to play here, especially around here. There's so many different levels you can be on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, easy to get sniped when you're up on these
Mm-hmm.
platforms for sure.
Yeah, it makes me feel like capture the flag is going to be a difficult mode on this map.
I've seen some pretty sweaty matches of CTF in this map, and I will agree with that.
Yeah, so with these two maps, what did you keep in mind specifically as you built them?
We had these two layouts that we brought into Forge, and one of the things we always had to keep in mind, for better or for worse, was the budget, right? Both of these maps sort of bounce up against the Forge budget, which, like I said earlier, is improved vastly from Halo 5's, but we still hit that limit, right? And so that was one of the concerns. Um, I wouldn't say concerns, just something we were constantly thinking about, and then just balancing the budget of the map object with the budget of the lighting objects and the audio objects. I think that was something that was always top of mind when we were making this map, and making sure that each team, 'cause we work with the lighting team, we work with the audio team, we work with the VFX team, and each team wants to put their stamp on it, right? And so, like, being able to balance all those and making sure every team had a voice in the end product of the map, that was really important to us.
Okay, so how long would discussions last between teams before solidifying a certain aspect of a map?
That's a good question. We work on maps in phases, right? So like the first couple of months, maybe 6 weeks of a map, you work on the block out and the geo. You want to get the gameplay right. You want to get the sandbox elements right. And then once you have that to a really good state, then you can move on to adding visuals, right? And so each discussion is with a different team, right? The first 6 weeks is with the level designers. And then once you get to the visuals, now you're talking with the art leads from the MP team. And then once you get some of the visuals, then you start bringing in the light team. So it's hard to say like individual discussions. It's a constant discussion over the evolution of a map to work with these teams to make sure that gameplay is never harmed by something that lighting does, but lighting has the freedom to make things that they want, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a constant push and pull and discussion with all of those teams.
And you're playing it every day. Yeah. But every day to make sure that it's fun. Wanna-
And it stays when the wall goes from gray to red, and when the sky goes from afternoon to noon, or things like
Mm.
that. So it's a constant discussion.
Yeah, so with these two new maps, since you created them in Forge, is there anything that you wanted to showcase in particular? I know you talked about budget and such, but is there like any outstanding feature that you really wanted to show off?
I really like I think the teleporter room just looks stunning. Um, it just in my I don't know if it's going to show on this video, but it just feels just really well crafted. It's lit well. It's got interesting gameplay. It just feels like this cool little space. But that's really hard for me to answer because I think both of these maps are stunning. Both the LD team and the art team, like everyone involved, really did a great job and came together to make this experience. Um, I love it as a whole that it really it sits next to our other maps like Recharge or Live Fire, and it sits and holds its own against internally developed made maps, right? I think
That's the
maybe
thing.
that's the thing I'm most
Yeah.
proud about.
The difference between something that we would make in our own tool set, Faber, and that we would make in Forge is not really that as significant as it was with Halo 5. And I think when I look at these maps, for me, the thing that I get such a joy out of is seeing just the beginning of a potential for people with what they can do with Halo, right? What they can do with Forge. And then also seeing how your team and all these other teams involved were able to use like echoes of other maps,
Mhm.
right? Classic map that we have in our back catalog, some of the best maps ever. And you can see them here, that DNA. So you've got this forward-facing idea of Forge, but with this real recall to these things that are fundamentally Halo that matter, right? And I love that.
Yeah, I love leveraging those archetypes. It's
Mhm.
fantastic.
That's why I'm smiling. Whenever the gameplay comes up, I'm smiling. But then as soon as you see me, I'm like, oh,
That makes me really happy to hear. I know we spent a lot of time on the maps, and I do want to cover Covert One Flag. So please run us through the new mode. How is this game mode going to play?
Yeah, it's a little spicy at times. It kind of depends on the map that you're playing on, but you have asymmetrical equipment. So one team will start out defending, and they will have threat sensors, and the other team is trying to get the flag because it's one flag. It's in the name, Covert One Flag, and that team has active camo. And so the idea is like you're going through there stealthily, trying to like make sure that people don't know where you are, trying to get to the flag, and there's a lot of tension there. And, it's like hide and seek, right? Which is sort of delicious, anyways. Same sort of vibe, but there's strategy in terms of like how you want to send people as decoys. When do you want to activate your camo? When do you want to use your location sensors? And I think that the team did a really, really good job of balancing those things out, and it's a ton of fun.
Okay, interesting.
Right here. Yeah.
Yeah, so do you respawn in this mode, or is it kind of just one life?
You do respawn, but so you switch sides
Okay.
at a certain time. Wait, yes, and then you get it's a best of 5 series.
Oh, okay. So interesting. Do you respawn with camo every time you come in
Yes,
after you die? Okay.
You have unlimited use.
Oh, wow. Okay. So will this new game mode be, you said this was spicy, so I'm curious, is this going to be a competitive mode in ranked and possibly in tournaments?
I do not know the answer to that question, simply because we want to see how it is in general. Yeah, so like I think one of the things that is really important with Halo competitive gameplay, even that more than ECS, is the ability for us to showcase clear strategies and skill over time. And this one is so new that I don't know that we can say that. I'm not saying we can't. You're always going to hear me be more cautious and then to be more direct and say, yeah, of course. So I think we're going to wait and see with that one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm very curious.
The asymmetrical loadouts, right? It's a challenge to balance.
Yep. Right now, we want to have fun with it.
Yeah, okay, so what was the craziest technique or strategy that you've done in this game mode?
I mean, they're not crazy. It's sort of like, because they're all fairly logical from a defense perspective, it's just like timing your threat locations, your location sensor or threat sensor shot across your team. You can cover the space you need to make sure that you can see the people who are invisible. And then from an invisible perspective is running distraction attacks, right? And just going out and maybe pushing on one side, making it pretty obvious that you're coming from one side.
Okay, yeah, I'm actually very curious to play this. It seems like a mode I can get pretty competitive on, so I'm very excited to see how it plays.
It is definitely competitive, but it's just fun. It's just good fun.
Okay. Well, I do want to go back to the maps real quick before we go into our next segment, which we're going to be talking about campaign co-op. So how long does it take to make a brand new map?
In Forge, right now, we're looking at 5 to 6 months. That's our goal. And all those phases, excuse me, all those phases I was talking about are obviously part of that. I think, certain maps will probably take a little longer, and maybe certain maps will take a little shorter, depending on sort of what we're going for. If we were to make if we made a doubles map, for example, it might take a little less time because it's just less space, right? Less space to make it look good and work. But hard to say. But I think 5 to 6 months is a good average, and that's what we're shooting for with Forge-made maps. Obviously, we want to get these out quick, as quick as we can without sacrificing gameplay or visual quality. And I think for 6 months, as long as nothing goes wrong, we can hit that bar.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like 5 to 6 months is about par for new maps in games. I know that Apex is also around the same, something like that. So, Very excited to see these new maps. And now we do have to move on to campaign co-op. And I'm really excited about this feature because my best friend and I have been waiting because we've been playing through each of the campaigns co-op. And of course, he likes to take every moment to smack me in the back of the head and kill me and go, oh no, must have been someone else. So I'm very excited to experience that in Halo Infinite.
Oh man. Do we have that in Halo Infinite? Do we actually have player-to-player damage in? I don't even. That's not even something that we do. Like, I don't even think about doing that to another person. So, like, I don't even. Yeah, I mean, is this person your friend?
I think grenade damage is at least on. That's for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, so I'm never showing him this stream. That's just set. Okay, great, cool.
Yeah.
So I'll just never tell him that.
There's no judgment. It takes all sorts.
Awesome. Okay. Now, I do have to ask this question. I would not be doing my job if I didn't, and I'm so sorry. But during one of your recent streams, you announced that couch co-op would not be coming to Halo Infinite. And as the community discovered, you can glitch into the mode, and Digital Foundry thought this worked well. So is this something that you'd ever consider reevaluating at any time?
So right now, we are committed to supporting the live service and making sure that the quality of this release is really high and good, and that we land that. But now for like a slightly non-political answer, more direct answer, when you see that, we of course were working on it for many months, years, on campaign co-op, couch co-op, and there's a lot of challenges there from a technical perspective, and what people were able to, I guess you called it, glitch into, is probably an 80%, but the amount of work for us to get from an 80% quality to 100% quality is significant. And the amount of effort that would take right now is not something that we can commit to. And I'm not even sure how long it would take, to be honest.
Okay.
Because there are things where even if we have just a few crashes, I'm not sure what platform they were playing on, because we would have to support all platforms. That's not maybe even something we could get through our certification passes.
Okay, yeah, that's completely fair. I had to ask, and thank you for your very candid answer. And it's fine because most people are online anyways. At least my friend and he lives across the country, so we'll be playing online. And
I know I'm not trying to dodge it, but like,
No.
it's not, when you say not, it is frustrating, and we acknowledge that. Like, it is frustrating for people, but that is the truth of what's happening right now.
Yeah, well, online campaign co-op is dropping, and my boss did get to play through this and participate in a flight test, or test flight, sorry, which was a ton of fun. And I know that he and Ryan McCaffrey, my other coworker, they absolutely loved it. They had a blast. But can you tell me about some of the changes that happened since then to improve the mode?
Oh, some of the changes since then. Well, I mean,
Since
a lot
the
of
test flight,
there's more. Yeah, there's more stability. I don't know. I actually don't know how many crashes or weird syncs they had, or people moving out of the shared areas of combat and engagement. Like, some things like that were not necessarily working from a stability perspective. But right now, I think the team feels really confident about where it is in terms of 4 players playing online together across different devices, and the way that the progression system works in there. How if you're the person who has the lowest, or has gone the least far in the campaign, becomes the common denominator for everybody's progression. But then you all share the collectible progression. So, like, you're me, and maybe you're not as far as someone else, and they know how to get to something like a new armor core or something like that. If they unlock it in that gameplay session with them, you'll get it as well. And so all of that stuff is really coming online really well, and it's a lot of fun to play together.
Okay, yeah, so I know you talked about the process of building co-op. What was the process like in terms of building online co-op and focusing on that?
Yeah, so it's a real technical challenge. It's different than any other Halo experience that we've tried to support before, and that it's because it's such a wide world. Once you get out of these dungeon areas, these interior areas, and you're in the open world, there's just so much space that 2 different players can go. And so one of the challenges, and we support more device types than ever before, right? So we're supporting, Xbox One all the way up through Xbox Series X, all the way to very high-end PC, and we have to be able to support the different network qualities and hardware qualities across those experiences in a world that is significantly larger and more computationally intensive than ever before. And the team did such a good job there. And one of the ways that they did that, like, I love the way that they initially thought about it. They said, hey, let's think about the largest campaign engagement space, right? Where you know these missions where like maybe it's like the prison attack. I'm not going to do any spoilers or anything, but like there's a large space where you can play, right? And what they did was they said, okay, well, this is the space, the radius of the space, and then we're going to double it. And we need to be able to support players being able to communicate with each other, have similar experiences, understand what's happening without the game breaking. And so like you said, they doubled it, that space, and it's awesome. And if you go out of it, you do sort of the player who leaves that space or the center of mass of most players, or I guess the player who's opening the matchmaking session, uh, it will send you back to them. You will die and then respawn back to them. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and I think you also mentioned some of the network issues and such. And I am curious to know how the servers will work with, say me and my friend who live on opposite sides of the U.S. I'm curious how that server is going to work or how that connection will work.
Yeah, there's a dedicated server. So there's going to be a dedicated server for if you're the leader of the session, and it should work great. Pretty confident. That's why we had those flights.
Yes.
People in different countries playing with each other worked out pretty well.
Okay, yeah, and I think you kind of touched on this, but how does Halo Infinite's open world change the way players engage with the game? I know you're talking about distance in terms of like, magneting back to the main player.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, people can Halo's always had a vibe of being very open. So if you play CE and you're driving around on the beach, once you get out of the ship, right? It feels open. It feels like there's a lot of options to go do things, but it's still kind of controlled. It's still really very much on rails or large rooms moving across each other. For this one, it's open, right? Like you can engage in any of these exterior world spaces and go from very different directions. So you might have someone who would go in there guns blazing and try to directly attack, or you might have someone like me who's going to pick up the sniper rifles and go and very slowly, methodically remove all of the enemies before they can even attack. Right, and so those are the sorts of gameplay styles that we see people using, and I wouldn't say that it's different than previous Halos. I would just say that it's more uh, extreme versions of those behaviors,
Okay.
which is cool. And you can actually now do it. You can have multiple play styles in the same session with multiple different people. So you might go in there guns blazing while I'm just supporting you from the back using my sniper rifle, and we both get a lot of joy out of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm definitely very much the guns blazing person, which actually brings me to my next question. So, how will the difficulty scale the more players you have in a co-op session?
I believe it stays the same for it is whatever the leader has set to their difficulty level.
Okay. So if they did the hardest difficulty, I think we were talking about Teamfire. Is there Teamfire on for the hardest difficulty?
That's one thing I would actually need to verify because I don't even try to do that. So I don't own campaign. Like that's not the space I drive.
Yeah.
But when I play, I'm not thinking, hey, I'm gonna shoot my buddy in the back. So I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. Look, I am just mentally preparing myself for the things that my friend is going to do. So I wanted to double check.
Damage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So when you did play through campaign, I know you said campaign isn't really your domain, but what difficulty did you play on? I'm actually very curious.
So I played on heroic. Actually, no, I played on normal.
Okay.
It depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about the shipped version of the game, I played on normal.
Okay.
I always do legendary. I even have the receipts to prove it. Maybe I'll post those someday. I always play on legendary. I have not had a chance yet. Things are quite intense since we launched Infinite, so I have not had a chance to play legendary. However, network co-op is a really good opportunity for me to get back in there and do it. So I will probably try to do that maybe over the holidays.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to do in particular with playing co-op? Are you gonna sign in with friends, family, or just do randoms through matchmaking?
Oh no, I'm gonna play with my. I think I talked about. I don't know. Maybe we were talking before. I have a best friend that I've played Halo with forever, like our entire lives, and
Hmm.
so we always play the campaigns co-op. So we're gonna play this one together, and I think I'm gonna really enjoy the final few spaces before
Okay.
the final fight in the game. So I don't know if you remember those areas where. Did you play the campaign?
I played through some of it, but again, I was waiting for
Okay.
campaign co-op because it's kind of similar to you. We played all the campaigns together, so
Okay.
yeah.
There's a space right before the very end of the game where you fight waves of enemies,
Ooh, okay.
and on Legendary, that's going to be a lot of fun, and I really, really can't wait to do that.
You're telling me through all those years of playing with this friend, you've never accidentally team fired each other?
I like maybe I'm too boring. I just never thought about it. I'm not a griefer. That's not my
Okay.
gameplay model.
Okay, that's fair. So to the both of you, what are you most excited for players to discover with this winter update? We talked about Forge, campaign co-op, the new maps. What are you the most excited for players to experience?
I think for me, I think it's within Forge, it's the node graph. I've already seen some pretty crazy stuff, like we talked about earlier, that people have made with node graph. Now, once players can get into the actual Forge and they can save those experiences and move forward with that stuff, it's going to get crazier, more complex. I just can't wait to see the kind of insanity that they're going to come up with.
Yeah, for me, gosh, we haven't really talked about multiplayer yet, but I'm really excited for people to get a more complete progression system. So I'm talking about Match XP
Mm.
for multiplayer. Really excited about that. I think that the thing that I want to do, and I've might have bothered Michael about this a few times. I'm pretty excited about getting player-made Forge maps and player-made Forge modes into our matchmaking experience to not only show our gratitude to those players for like what they can do, but just to show off the capabilities of that tool set, and also just to use that to give players more and more opportunities to both see the ways that they could possibly express themselves, enjoy Halo in different ways, but then also maybe spark an interest in them to go create themselves.
Mhm.
That is something that I'm really excited about because our community has been full of creators for decades at this point, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, so you talk about progression. Will matches played in Forge count towards XP progression at all?
Not yet.
Okay.
So if you are playing a Forge made map that we've put into a playlist, you will absolutely get XP for that. We are working on ways to make sure that, one of the things I said when I took over this position, is I want people to play Halo very well. And part of playing Halo your way is also being able to play. We should find a way to do that. That solution is not in place
Okay.
yet. But yeah,
Yeah,
wanna do it.
I'm very glad that the discussion is in place and that there is going to be a progression update. So I'm very excited to see all of that. And I'm so excited for the winter update. Thank you so much for talking about us. That is talking to us about us. About it to us. Oh my God, I could talk. But that is all the Halo info we have time for today. Thank you so much for being here.
Of
No,
course,
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and I want to shout out our sponsor. Thank you so much, Trolli, for sponsoring this stream. And with that, thank you for watching. And for more on all things Halo, make sure to stay right here on IGN.